All right, welcome everybody. I'm excited to get started. This is our second session for Manitou Neo Enhanced Action Patterns. There are files attached to this GoToMeeting session that is going to be in that control panel on that right-hand side of your screen. And those handouts are available for you also in the Bold Genius Resource Library. So if you happen to forget to download them today, you will still be able to get to them in the Bold Genius Resource Library. Also, if you missed out on our critically acclaimed Manitou Neo Bootcamp, it is going to be offered again in January 17th and 18th, 2018. The seats are selling fast, so please reach out to sales@boldgroup.com. If you would like to sign up for that class, the next time it will be available is going to be online after the January class. So don't miss out on this great in-person class, January 17th and 18th, 2018. So sales@boldgroup.com. So our last session, we covered the basics of the enhanced action patterns versus the standard action patterns. We also planned and stepped through several scenarios. This session, we're going to cover the select feature in the Manitou Enhanced Action Patterns. We're also going to build a case statement. And we're also going to build a loop logic. So we're going to step through several different features that are going to sort of build on what we covered last time. So if you didn't learn that basic information, we do have that recording available for you. So you can go through that, but we're going to build on some of that, and we're going to build a select and case statement. And then we're going to build a separate loop logic so that you can learn how to run through things multiple times. And then we're going to have any questions at the end. So always, 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 it's still important to plan before we actually do any action pattern. And we always have to ask that most important question, why? And does this action pattern make the most sense in solving that customer or business need? So our first customer scenario is a senior living community. Each zone that trips represents a room in that facility. So if that zone 1 trips, that represents Mrs. Kim's room. And if that is a medical alarm and that trips on zone 1, the operator should contact Mrs. Kim to see if she needs assistance. It also means that the monitoring center should also contact the appropriate people for Mrs. Kim. So what does that look like? Here's the request itself. So it says when zone 1 is an alarm, we call Mrs. Kim. When zone 2 is an alarm, we call Mr. Ballard. And when zone 3 is an alarm, we call Mrs. Hunt. Then we verify if that customer does indeed require assistance. If it's yes, then we contact the medical authority. And we also call the appropriate call list. Zone 1, call list 1. Zone 2, call list 2. Zone 3, call list 3. And then we notify the community manager of that incident. And then if it's no, we email the community manager and close the alarm. So that's pretty much how we step through that all the way through that entire process. So in order for that to really make it clear for me, I'm a bit of a visual person, so I actually draw myself a little flow chart. So I have my medical alarm that comes in. I have my medical alarm that comes in. And then I determine what zone it is. If it's zone 1, I call Mrs. Kim. Zone 2, I call Mr. Ballard. Zone 3, I call Mrs. Hunt. And then I ask, do you need assistance? If it's yes, then I verify if it's zone 1. Oops, I forgot to put my medical notification in there. I just realized I have a flaw in my flowchart. So if I have zone 1, call list 1. Zone 2, call list 2. Zone 3, call list 3. And then I contact the community manager and close the alarm. If it's no, then I just email the community manager and close the alarm. So that's pretty straightforward as far as my flowchart. And obviously I realized I had a flaw in my flowchart, but I've built it pretty much all right in Manitou. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to switch over to my Manitou Neo, and I'm going to sign in. We're going to take a look at that. So we're going to just look at what it looks like, and then we're going to actually build it. So this is going to be a two-step process so that you can understand all of the different elements. So I have my medical case here, and I'm saying I'm going to select my event zone, and my case is that if it's zone 1, then we're going to contact Guadalupe Kim. If it's case zone 2, then Caleb Ballard, and case 3, it's going to be Jamie Hunt. So then I end my select, and I'm going to prompt, do we need medical assistance? Then I log that information saying basically the customer requested assistance, and that's going to say basically, is it yes or no? There's my pick list. If the assistance is yes, contact the medical response, otherwise close the alarm. Then after I've done my medical response, then I can say select the event zone, then my case again. Is it 1? Call list 1. Case 2, call list 2. Case 3, call list 3. Now I happen to have my call list being 101, 102, 103, but you get the idea. Otherwise, we're going to notify the customer on the site, and then we have our end select, and we have our close with our resolution code. So we've got all of our different case all the way through. Now, that is a pretty detailed list, but we're going to build it from scratch. So I'm going to use my plus here to build a brand new case statement. So there I am. I'm going to do a brand new code, and I'm going to do I'm just going to call it med here, just so that it's different. Medical case. I'm going to put it in my medical category, which happens to be 2 here. I'm going to say next. And now I've got a brand new clean action pattern. So my very first thing is I need to select. So I'm going to do data here. Oops, sorry. I'm going to do logic select. There we go. Event value. My event value, and then I've got my field here. So I have all of these different things that I can do. So eventually I'll get a quick reference guide, but I realize that this is a really long one, and there's a lot of stuff in here that I can do. You can see that I can scroll down here, and it's quite long. But what I care about for today is going to be my event zone. So my event zone, and then I apply that. Select my event zone. So that's all the select is doing. It's just saying, look at the event that comes in and look for the zone number. That's all it's doing. Then I can build my case. So I'm going to say case is, in my select, is it equal to, and what value I want. So if my zone is equal to 1, apply. And then what do I want to do? And my point is I want to actually make a contact. So I'm going to do my entity handling, contact, or notify. So remember, contact is expecting a two-way conversation, and notify is just going out and throwing that information out there. So I'm going to do a contact. I'm going to do contact and I can actually do a contact here. I can actually, if I had my customer contact here, and remember I've got my people, and that was Mrs. Kim. Now I could pick an individual point, or I can pick that person specific, generally. So I'm going to do home here. I'm going to apply that, and that is it. So if the zone is 1, contact Guadalupe Kim. And then I go into my next case. So I go into my logic again, case. My value is 2. I apply that. And I want to do, once again, my entity handling, contact, and my next one was Ballard. So I'm going to do Caleb Ballard here, home, apply, and then I can do my logic again, my case number 3, my value is 3, apply, and then my entity handling, contact, and my third person was Jamie Hunt. Okay, there we go, apply that. And then I'm done with my cases there, so I'm going to do end select. Okay, so just think of these as parentheses. I'm opening my parentheses and I'm closing my parentheses. So there I've started my select and I'm ending my select. So now my next thing is that I need to prompt something. I need the operator to ask a question. So I'm going to prompt the operator under my data handling. I'm going to give it a variable because I want to find out what I'm going to insert into the activity. I'm going to give it a variable. So I'm going to say my assistant. And you notice that I got rid of that @ symbol because it's going to automatically add the @ symbol. So add assistance. And my type is going to be list because I really just want a yes or no answer. So it's going to be yes, vertical pipe, no. And this has to be absolutely slammed together. There's no spaces, no extra bits in there. So do you need assistance, yes or no? And whoops, that was supposed to be my prompt there. Let me put that in the right place. My mask is where I want to actually put my list. There we go. So do you need assistance? There we go. So I've got my variable, the type, what I want the operator to read, and what I want the answers to be in my list. So variable, type, prompt, and actual mask on that prompt. So I apply that. Do you need assistance? There's my pick list, and then there's my prompt. Now I also want that information to log into history. So I want that log line to be added. So I'm going to say customer requested assistance, at assistance. And this must be in uppercase just as it's written in that variable. I also want to auto run it, and I'm going to flag it as hidden. It doesn't actually hide it from view, but it is something that I'm just flagging as hidden so that if it ever does hide from view, it's there. When I'm applying that, it does show up in capitals all the way across. So I'm logging this to history, saying customer requested assistance, and it'll say yes or no at the end. So now I've got my prompt, and now I want to put in a logic statement of saying yes or what I want to do afterwards. Because remember, we had that if yes, we're going to do something, if no, we're going to do something else. So I'm going to put my if in here. Now I can even type the word if I've got my focus in here, which then filters down everything else in my action patterns. So I can then pick my variable. So there's my variable. If assistance value is yes, then we are going to, once again, contact. This time we're going to contact the authority, and then the authority type is going to be the medical response. And let's see, contact a medical response, so we're good there. Contact the medical response. And then our else is going to be that we are going to, and I'm not going to put the email address in there just because we don't have an outgoing email address in here, and I don't want to have it sit there and fail on an email address. So I'm just going to add my closing there, and I'm going to say that it is a false alarm, so we're going to say no fault here. Actually, we're going to say customer caused, so we're going to do CU here, customer caused, apply, and then we are going to do our end if. Because we started an if, we have to end our if. So once again, this is our parentheses. So we're saying that we're contacting if they need a medical response. If not, we're closing the alarm. And then if they do need a medical response, we want them to be actually called. We're going to do a new select. So we're going to do our select again. Event value is still going to be that zone. So we're going to get ourselves down to our zone, event zone. There we go, event zone. And same thing, we're going to build a new case. So our case is equal to 1. And we're going to apply that. And we're going to do our call list. So we're going to go back to our entity handling, contact, customer, and we have our call list. So we have our room 101 contacts, and we're going to apply that. And then our case 2, there's our case, and our value 2, and apply. And then our contact, the call list 2, apply. And then our case again, and our value of 3, and our apply. And our contact, our call list 3, and apply. And then we also are done with our select again. And then we still have that one more contact to make, which is our actual contact of the site. So we're going to contact the actual senior community, site. And then now we can close the alarm, and we're going to leave that resolution code open for it to be closed out by the actual operator when they find out what that alarm is actually doing. So now that we're done with that and we've built our action pattern, then normally we would have it so that it's actually tied to a global, but we haven't tied this one to a global because it's actually for this particular site. So we're going to say added action pattern. Now we need to tie it to an event code. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to go into the systems and programming. And I'm going to do my medical alarm here. I'm going to do an override on this account. I'll do all transmitters there. Any area, any zone. And instead of the medical case that's the default, I'm going to use this one. And we're going to say done. We're going to save that. Added new medical case to account. And OK. And now we're going to send our manual signal. So I'm going to hit my F4. That creates my manual signal from the record. I'm going to do a medical alarm, and I'm going to do it on zone 2. And we're going to send in our medical alarm. I'm going to go into my alarm queue. And there's my Garden of the Gods senior community. And hopefully we won't be annoyed too much with stuff. And there it is, contact customer key holder, Caleb Ballard at home. So I'm going to do that contact. Now I can leave this phone call up and running, and I can actually do that prompt. And I say, do you need assistance, yes or no? I'm going to say no here real quick. And then I can actually complete my call. So I'm going to finish my call. I'm going to talk to all okay with Mr. Ballard, accidental trip. And we can say done. And when we do that, it's going to go through, and it's actually, I did not actually have that auto run on that close alarm, so I actually have to do that action. But I can then give it the reason, all okay, and we can actually close that alarm. So it actually did that logic for the no piece. Now I can actually go back and do this again, this manual signal. I can even change my zone number. I can say zone 1 this time. Go back into my alarm queue. There's my alarm here. And now it has Guadalupe Kim. So I D for do again. I do that prompt. And this time they say yes. We say, okay. I continue my call. Slipped and fell. All right. We're going to say done. And this time, when I have my D for do for the next thing, it's now the medical responder. So I can contact that medical authority. I can put in my dispatch notes there, dispatch the site. And now it has the call list 1. I D for do, and I've got Angel here to notify. I notify Angel. And I'm done with that. And now I can contact the senior community saying that I notified them. There we go. I'm done with that. And now I've got the close alarm with resolution. I can do my actual alarm. Customer needed assistance. And close alarm. Okay, so I'm going to close that alarm queue real quick. So with that, let me go ahead and expand that. That is a case statement with a select on a value that came in from the alarm. So with that, I'm going to let people ask some questions, but I'm also going to launch a poll. So first I'm going to launch this first poll that I did last time for people. Have you seen the Manitou Neo Enhanced Action Patterns before? Good. I'm glad to see that a large portion of people have seen these before, so I'm excited to see that. We're going to go ahead and close that poll, and we're going to share our results. All right, so we've got 74% now have seen this, which is fantastic, and only 26% have not seen it before, so I'm really glad that you've joined us. And this was a little bit more advanced for your first time, so I'm glad you're hanging with us. If you do have questions, please go ahead and put those in the question field. All right, so our next poll is going to be this is going to be a little bit interesting because this is a little bit more advanced for some people. So do you think the enhanced action patterns are difficult to build? All right, I'm going to share that. So right now the jury's still out. We got a 13% people say no, and 26% are saying yes. So yeah, that's actually really kind of good. I'm glad people are still giving it the benefit of the doubt that the jury's still out. So that's excellent. I'm glad to see that. So a question did come up, said, can logic be added to handle a zone that does not have a call list created? Not quite sure exactly what you're asking there. Basically, if it doesn't have a call list, it's not going to give you the call list to present if it doesn't have a zone. So I'm not sure exactly what you're asking there, Jean. So if you can expound on that a little bit, I'd appreciate that. So cases and just think of if then is always going to be just two choices, and case logic is going to be anything that has greater than two choices. So let me go ahead and show you a little bit more about your the cases, your selects, while we've got a couple more minutes, because that went a little bit faster than I planned. So I'm going to go ahead and just show you a couple things that you do have in your selects. So I'm just going to pull up a select. So I'm going to just call this test real quick. And I'm going to put it in my general here. So when I do a select, you have this event value. And the event value, that field has got a huge amount. I'm just going to start very at the bottom. So you have the zone description, and it says blank if not found. So you can actually have that zone description be something that you can actually look at. Even the transmitter type, the event transmitter ID, the event date and time. You can even go to the actual UTC or GMT time, the event time itself. You can actually look for a specific event time if you needed to. System type description, system number, event sensor, the sector description. I mean, it gets really, really down and dirty. Some of these things you may almost never touch, and some things you may touch very, very detailed. So, for example, your FEP number might really affect whether or not, if you're on the primary or standby FEP, you might really change what you're doing. The device description, the event description might change how you behave. More globally, I would say that would be true. Your event category might change how you behave if it's something that's in the bird category versus the fire category. And really, in theory, you could actually write one action pattern and run your entire central station. Would you want to? Probably not, because troubleshooting it would be an absolute bear. But you could actually say one action pattern with a ton of if and case statements all in place. You could actually run off one actual action pattern. It would be a little bit difficult to troubleshoot it when you were really having a problem, but you could do it. Same thing with the event area. You could actually say, if it's in area 2, do one thing. If it's in area 1, do something else. So you really can be very, very powerful with your event value at the time of the alarm. You can also do a customer value at the time of the alarm. And I did this actually the last time we did our session, where I did whether the customer was residential or not. You can also do it by city or town. I've had a couple people come back to me over the last month talking about how they had a 3-call verification in particular cities, where we could actually manage that now with a city-town type of decision on a global action pattern. So I could actually put 3 phone calls in on a city as opposed to 2 calls. I could actually do it by a group code or class code if I needed to. The UL grade or UL response time could be something we could actually point to. And for those of you who have been really kind of hankering for stuff that's tied to your actual user-defined fields, you now have the capability based on customer values in your user-defined fields to actually pick those values. So I think that's really something that's very, very useful in your selects. So that customer value can be hugely popular. And your variables, when they're available in your particular action patterns, you can actually use those variables as live values that can be changing at the time. So it can be really, really useful. Jean, you did actually give me some additional information. Let's see, new zone 16 is added to the account by the installer and comes in, but you don't have a call list created for that zone. Can logic be handled that doesn't have a call list created? I'm not sure exactly what you're trying to add at that point. I mean, you can have a default, contact your key holders when you do that. Absolutely. You can certainly do that, saying if I don't have a call list for it, use your key holder list. Absolutely. You certainly can do that. That's definitely something that's possible there. All right, so I'm going to cancel what I've done here, and I'm not going to save it, so we can move on to our next thing. So I'm going to go back into our bit here. So I showed you what that looked like in Manitou. So our next thing that we're going to talk about is loop logic. So if you can use your hand raise for the next question that I've got. How many of you have a situation where you have either at your company level or on individual dealers or for a customer itself where they say you have to call your key holders or your contacts a minimum of 3 times before you can say that you're done with calling those contacts. So yeah, so you've got a few of them. So I've got several here that are getting that type of situation. That is something that you can definitely do in Manitou Neo with the enhanced action patterns. It's called loop logic, and we actually I've actually put a handout on this session. So since you're in your little taskbar, make sure you open your little handout section and look at that we actually can do loop logic in Manitou Neo that will allow us to actually do this. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to switch back over to Manitou Neo, and we're going to take a look at that. So I'm going to open my dashboard here, and I actually have, where is my customer? There, Morgan Family Stores. So now I did this individually on a customer record. You could do it in several different ways. You can do it by a key holder list, or you can do it on a particular customer, and you can see that I've actually done my testing on it as well. I'm going to show it to you, and then I'm going to build it again. So what I did on my burglary alarm, instead of doing my standard global action pattern, I actually went ahead and customized it to my customer itself. But you can see here I have my contact police, contact customer, and then I set a counter, and I set it to 0 at the beginning of the alarm, and then I built a label so that I can jump back to it. And then I have my contact key holder Sally, Mary, Jerry, and Doc. And then I set my counter to 1, and then if the counter is less than 3, I'm going to log that I contacted the key holders however many times. I'm going to suspend it for 5 minutes, and then I'm going to jump back to that check state. If that is less than 3, I keep doing that, and then once it is greater than 3, then I log that I was unable to reach key holders after the 3 attempts, and then I can close the alarm, moving on. So what this allows me to do is it allows me to make my appropriate contacts, loop through this 3 times, and then be done with the alarm. So this ensures that operators are doing exactly what the customer or the company operational procedures are without having to do any extra work on their part and without having to make them read notes and hoping that they actually follow the instructions. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to build it. I'm going to build it for another, I'm going to grab another global action pattern, and I'm going to just build it again. So I'm going to go into edit mode. I'm going to grab one of my other global action patterns. So I'm going to do my global, let's do the fire supervisory action. So I'm going to do a fire supervisory there. I'm going to put it in my fire section. Say next. Now, normally I have just my global action pattern of notify, but I'm going to just build it brand new. So I'm going to clear that out. And I'm going to start with the first thing I'm actually going to do is I'm going to put my label in place because I'm going to just make sure that I'm jumping to it. So check state. Now I can do any label I want. I could say jump here if I wanted to. This does not have to have anything special here. Just it has to have a label. And actually I want to put my set my counter as well. So counter. And once again, this doesn't have to say counter. It can say start. You can say whatever you want it to say. 0 is my very first. I'm going to have that auto run. I'm also going to flag it as hidden. I'm going to apply it. And what's really cool is that I don't have to do anything other than drag and drop it. I want to make my counter be the first thing, my label be the second thing. And now I want to actually make my contacts. So I'm going to say contact my Sally first, and I just want to contact her on her mobile phone, and so that our calls don't go forever today, I'm just going to call Doc as well. So I'm going to call those two people that they have to be contacted. We're going to have to attempt to contact them at least 3 times, and then we can move on. And then we are going to set that counter to a value of counter, at counter +1. So what we're doing is we're taking that value and adding 1. Same thing, auto run and hidden, apply, and then I always do that log line. It is not necessary, but I do that log line just so that I can see in the activity that first the counter went to 1, and then it went to 2, and then it went to 3. It's not required. It's absolutely not necessary. I do it for my own comfort and the audit trail of, see, I told you we did it once, we did it twice, and we did it 3 times. So I'm going to set that counter, and then I'm going to add my log line, and my log line is going to say the monitoring company contacted the key holders at counter times. And I always put a little parentheses in here because it might be 1 time or 2 times. Auto run hidden, that way operators don't have to do it, it's just going to automatically do. There we go. And then we are going to suspend for 5 minutes. So that's under alarm handling, suspend. We're going to suspend for 5 minutes. And I'm going to change my priority. It's normally priority 5, so I'm going to drop it to 55. Auto run that as well. And then we are going to jump back to our check state and apply. And I forgot my if. Okay, so if variable counter is less than 3, then we jump to the check state, else then we are going to do our log line that we was unable to reach a key holder after at counter attempts. Auto run and hidden. and then close alarm. And we can actually even give it a resolution code. We can even do unknown as that, put an auto run on it, apply it. Okay. All right. Ta-da. It's going to jump through. That all looks good. So we're making the contacts, and then if it fails, it's just going to log and close. All right. We're going to say done. That's our fire supervisory. That's our G5, so it should hit when we do a fire supervisory, so we shouldn't have to add programming. So added override fire supervisory action. So at this point, we are going to test our fire supervisory action pattern. Oh, good catch, Tracy. I did not do an end if. Good catch. I am going to go back and fix my bit. Excellent job. I did not do my end if. Excellent work, Tracy. Good catch. It would have failed, and I would have had to troubleshoot it. So, excellent. All right, so now we're going to do our manual signal for Morgan Family Stores. We're going to do a fire supervisory. Shouldn't really matter what zone because we're, oops, I just sent a medical alarm for the front door. Fire supervisory, and the front door doesn't apply here. There we go. Send in a fire supervisory. Morgan Family Stores. Oops, I pulled up the wrong alarm. So we'll just go ahead and operator cancel that one. All right. So it's set its counter. The label is not applicable, so we're going to contact Sally Johnson. I'm going to do my D for do, and we're going to do not in. All right, we're calling her again. She's still not in. We're calling her again. She's still not in. We're done calling her. We're going to call the next person. .king, calling not in. Calling .king again, not in. Calling .king one more time, not in. We're done calling .king. And now it's going to suspend for 5 minutes. Okay, there's Morgan Family Stores. It's now priority 55. We're going to assume 5 minutes have gone by. It's now cleaned up, and now we are ready to call again. Once again, Sally Johnson is not in. So we're going to call Sally Johnson again. Not in. Calling Sally Johnson again. We're done calling Sally Johnson. We're going to call .king. Not in. Calling .king again. Not in. Calling .king a third time. Not in. We're done calling .king. And now it's suspended again. 55. We're assuming 5 minutes have gone by. And we are now doing our third time calling. So we're going back to that call list. We're dialing Sally Johnson. Sally Johnson is not in. Calling again, not in. Calling again, not in. We're done calling Sally. We're calling Doc. Doc's not in. Calling Doc again, not in. Calling Doc again, not in. Yes, the action's complete. Putting it on hold one more time. And then the 5 minutes go on by. And now we're closing the alarm. Now I'm going to go ahead and go back into the activity log so you can see what's actually happened here. So I go back to Morgan Family Stores. I'm going to go into the full activity log so you can see the whole page. So we had the results not in. We had not in, not in, not in, not in. We suspended it. Oh, did I not log it? I thought I had it logged. That's weird. It didn't show my logging. I'll have to troubleshoot that afterwards, but it was showing all my logging on the previous one. Or no. Oh, it's not showing there either. We'll have to see what happened there. But you can see that all of that still followed the process, even though the log lines aren't showing in there. But you can see that we called it. We called the list each person 3 times. So we called the person 3 times, and we were not able to reach them. And so it did its loop 3 times, and then once it hit that maximum of 3 times, we were able to move on. So it did show the log line in the activity screen, so I'm not sure if it's just I've got, oh, you know what? I bet I've got a problem with my filtering. Yes, select all. Search. Yep, that's exactly it. It was in my filtering. So the alarm script log was filtered out. So alarm script log, monitoring, contact the key holder 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, and then the alarm script log, monitoring company was unable to reach the key holder after 3 attempts. So it did exactly what we expected it to do. So it was just my filtering. So so I had a couple people who got a little lost. So basically, it forces the operator to actually go through and make those calls. It clears out the attempts each time, and so it goes through those attempts each time. So basically, the idea of those loop logics is just so that we can sort of force that process that is in a lot of people's standard operating procedures. So it really kind of improves the ability to sort of force some standard operating procedures. So if a key holder answers the phone prior to the loop of the 3 calls, then it sort of eliminates that loop. The idea is that if it fails to make contact, that's really what we're trying to do. Is if we've made a successful contact, then the loop is not necessary. That's really kind of what we're aiming for here. There's still operators can still do operator cancel. That's something that will always be there. The fact is that that's their password. Their password has to be manually entered, so operators will always have that capability, but that's kind of why they're forced to type in their password for the operator cancel. So it is something that is always going to be there unless you disable their ability to get to it. So that is something that will be there as time goes, sort of always. So it's going to be something that you will have to sort of as a training issue. Not in or busy will work. Yes, you are correct there. Let's see if there's any other questions. Each phone call, you did make 3 calls? Yes, you did make 3 calls for each one because that's the Manitou, that's the threshold that we have set. If your supervisor workstation has 2 calls as a failure, that's what you'll do. You'll make 2 calls before you fail. That's going to be every time that you call and fail, that is the number that you're calling. But it's the loop through is what I'm talking about, the 3 times. It's not the number of times that you try and call them. Let's see, are there any other questions? All right, so that looks like most of the questions there. So let me get back to our thing, sir. All right, so what we covered today was basically the select and case statements, and then we also talked about loop logic. I have one more poll, hoping that, let's see if I can get that expanded. Come on, there we go. So which action pattern do you think you might be able to use in your business? And I'm going to go ahead and close the poll and share the results. It looks like the zone-based case seems to be the one that people are going to be able to use most often. And then we still got 26% that are still not quite sure yet. So, and good, a lot of people can use both, and that's nice. I should have had that option. You're right. Thank you. So that's good. I'm glad to see that we have some good ideas out there. The next thing that I have is a challenge for you. In the handouts, I actually have a list of challenges for different possible enhanced action pattern scenarios. So we have the sandbox system out there that you can create your own customer records and try your hand at creating enhanced action patterns there. These scenarios can have proven to be successfully created in Manitou Neo, and I challenge you to write them and test them there. Then you can look at your action patterns that you have in your copious amounts of notes on your customer records and try your hand at writing new action patterns using what you learned. This is your chance to really get good at Manitou Neo action patterns without worrying about breaking your own data to do it. So I challenge you to take those scenarios and build your own enhanced action patterns in our sandbox. And while I'm on that sandbox soapbox, I want to give a shout out to several sites that have actually been in there working over the last 2 weeks. Permar, Central de Alarmas, Effie Moran, Las Colinas, OnWatch, Security Central, ESC, and Matson Alarm. You all have done a really good job getting in there and practicing. I really want to give you kudos publicly because you guys have really been in there and practicing. Now I want you to get in there more. I want you to really take what you're learning here on these enhanced action pattern webinars, and I want you to try it. So I'm challenging you. Now that you've been on some of these sessions, I want you to get in there and practice. I will happily answer questions anytime that you get stuck, and I will be there for you. So get in there and try it. All right, let me see if there's any other additional questions real quick before we wrap this up. All right, so great. Well, I appreciate all the time that you guys have spent with me over the past few times that we've done these webinars. We'll be doing one more in December, so please feel free to send me questions anytime that you have them. Please send me any scenarios that you have, anything that you think is really tough that you can't figure out, and I will be happy to try and put them into enhanced action patterns. So thank you so much for your time today. I really do appreciate it. And if you don't have a sign-in for our sandbox, please reach out to sales@boldgroup.com and we'll get you set up. So thank you again so much for your time today. There will be a recording available tomorrow, and have a wonderful rest of your day. Thanks. Have a good one.